She had learned to be invisible long before she ever touched a rifle. In the sprawling, dust-choked refugee camps on the border of a forgotten war, a small, silent girl had learned that to be seen was to be a target. Her name was Ilara, and her childhood was a collage of muted screams, the stench of diesel and despair, and the constant, gnawing ache of hunger. She survived by blending into the shadows, a wraith among the tents, her large, watchful eyes missing nothing. She saw the way the aid workers moved, their weary efficiency. She saw the bullies who preyed on the smaller children, and the way they flinched when a militant strode past. But most of all, she watched her father. He was a ghost of the man he must have been in photographs, a man with kind eyes and a strong jaw, but now a hollowed-out shell who spent his days staring at the distant hazy mountains. He rarely spoke, but sometimes, in the dead of night, he would take a worn, disassembled rifle from beneath their thin mattress. It was an old Soviet Dragunov, a weapon from a dozen conflicts past. He would clean it, his movements a slow, sorrowful ritual, his calloused fingers tracing the cool metal as if it were a lover's face. Ilara would watch from her corner, barely breathing, absorbing the geometry of the weapon, the way the spring compressed, the precise click of the bolt locking into place. He never taught her, never even acknowledged her watching, but he didn't stop her either. It was their silent language, a shared secret in a world stripped bare of them. Years bled into one another. The camp became her entire world. Her father grew weaker, and his cough a permanent rattling presence in their tent. One evening, as the sun bled orange and red over the barbed wire fence, he gestured for her to come to him. He held the rifle, its components gleaming faintly in the dying light. With a trembling hand, he pointed to the scope, then to the distant mountains. He didn't speak of politics or causes, of freedom or martyrdom. He simply said, his voice a dry rustle, "You see the path, Ilara. You always have. The mountains. They are a place you can see far, a place you can choose." That night, he passed away, his hand still resting on the stock of the Dragunov. The rifle was all he left her. It was a curse and a compass, a legacy of pain and a map to an unknown future. Ilara didn't cry. Crying was a luxury she couldn't afford. She buried him in the hard, an unyielding ground at the edge of the camp, with no marker, no ceremony. The next day, she dismantled the rifle, wrapped the pieces in an oiled cloth, and hid them at the bottom of her bag. She was 16, and she was utterly alone. The camp was no longer a way station. It was a cage. She began to study the guards, their patrol patterns, their moments of inattention. She watched the smugglers who came at night, trading whispers and currency with certain men. She was choosing her path. One moonless night, she slipped through a gap in the fence she had observed for weeks, a shadow merging with 1,000 others, and began the long walk towards the mountains her father had pointed to. The journey was a brutal education. She joined a ragged band of others seeking refuge on the other side of the range, a silent, desperate river of humanity. They crossed icy rivers that stole the breath from their lungs and climbed treacherous paths where a single misstep meant a plummet into a rocky abyss. They were preyed upon by bandits and border patrols alike. Through it all, Ilara remained silent, her endurance a quiet marvel. When bandits stopped their group, demanding their few valuables, it was Ilara who noticed the leader's tell, the way he favored his left side. When a border patrol's spotlight swept too close, it was Ilara who pulled a young mother and her baby into the shadow of a rock formation just in time. She wasn't just surviving, she was learning to read the terrain, to anticipate movement, to calculate angles and distances. The mountains were a harsh school, and she was its most attentive student. After weeks of hell, they reached the summit of a pass. Below them lay a valley, green and scarred, and on the other side a new country, a promised land of concrete and glass towers. But between them and that promise was a military checkpoint, the last and most formidable obstacle. Soldiers with hard eyes and automatic weapons lazily watched the line of refugees snake down the switchback path. This was where hope went to die. Ilara observed the checkpoint with the same detached focus she had once used to watch her father clean his rifle. She noted the bored sniper in the concrete pillbox overlooking the pass, the placement of the two machine gun nests, the casual cruelty of the soldiers as they separated families and confiscated papers. To go forward was to enter a trap. To go back was to die in the mountains. She found a small overhang, a shallow cave just below the ridgeline, be hidden from both the pass and the valley. She told her group to wait. They were too exhausted, too beaten to argue. She would watch, she would learn, she would find a way. For 2 days, she watched. She lived on melted snow and the memory of food. She memorized the rhythm of the checkpoint, the shift change at dawn and dusk, the 10-minute window when the soldiers in the pillbox were distracted, trading jokes and cigarettes with the relief crew, the way the sniper, a smirking man with a patch over one eye, would prop his feet up on his sandbags and scan the mountainside with a bored, predatory gaze. On the second night, under the cover of a storm that lashed the mountain with sleet, she crept back down to the pass. She retrieved her father's rifle from its hiding place in her pack. For the first time, in the pitch black of the cave, with the wind howling outside, she assembled it. Her fingers, numb with cold, moved with a surety that surprised her. Click, slide, lock. The weapon was whole again, a cold, heavy extension of her will. She didn't sleep that night. She just held it, feeling its weight, feeling the ghost of her father's hands on hers. Dawn broke, gray and angry. The storm had passed, leaving the world washed clean and sharply defined. The refugees stirred, looking to Ilara with a desperate, unspoken plea. She didn't look at them. Her eyes were fixed on the pillbox below. She saw the sniper arrive for his shift, a steaming mug in his hand. He settled into his position, his rifle a sleek, modern thing beside him. The 10-minute window of distraction began. The new guards clustered, laughing at something. Ilara moved. As she slithered out of the cave on her belly, a ripple of motion over the wet rock. She had chosen her spot the night before, a shallow depression behind a jagged outcrop, 100 meters to the left of the cave, offering a clear, unobstructed line of sight to the pillbox's observation slit. It was a ridiculously exposed position, a place where a rookie would be spotted instantly, but it was the only place the shot was possible. She had to get there, and she had to be fast. She was halfway there, inching forward with agonizing slowness, when a stone, dislodged by her knee, clattered and bounced down the mountainside. The sound was tiny, insignificant, but in the crystalline silence of the morning, it was a thunderclap. She froze, her heart a frantic drum against the frozen ground. In the pillbox, the one-eyed sniper's head snapped up. His gaze swept the mountain, missing her by inches. Then he saw something. A flicker of movement? A patch of color that didn't belong? He picked up a pair of binoculars. Ilara didn't breathe. The binoculars swept past her, then slowly, deliberately, came back. They fixed on her position. She was pinned. There was no use in hiding. He had seen her. He lowered the binoculars, a slow, cruel smile spreading across his face. It was a smile of pure, arrogant amusement. He nudged the soldier next to him, pointing. He didn't raise his weapon. He didn't shout an alarm. Instead, he leaned forward, his voice carrying surprisingly well in the thin, cold air. "Well, well," he called out, his tone laced with mockery. "What do we have here? A little bird fallen from its nest?" He chuckled, a grating sound. He picked up his own rifle, a sleek, black thing, and made a show of checking its scope. Then he looked back at her, his one eye gleaming with sadistic delight. He gestured with his chin towards her, a clear, contemptuous challenge. "Go on, then," he yelled, loud enough for the whole mountainside to hear. Let's see you make that shot, rookie. Let's see the great rebel sniper take out the big bad wolf." His words hung in the air, a gauntlet thrown down not just at her, but at her father's memory, at her silent years of watching and learning. He saw a frightened girl, a refugee, a nobody. He didn't see the decades of silence, the years of watching her father's hands, the brutal journey through the mountains. He saw a target. He saw sport. He turned to his companion, still grinning, waiting for the show to begin, for the terrified girl to either run or be shot trying. Auntie Alara didn't run. She didn't flinch. The mockery washed over her, a wave breaking against a cliff. In that moment of supreme danger, something within her clicked into place, as cleanly and precisely as the bolt of her father's rifle. The fear was gone, replaced by a crystalline clarity. The sniper's voice faded into the background hum of the wind. The world shrank. There was only the target, the weapon, and her. She had become what she had always been watching for, a ghost. And ghosts don't listen to taunts. They just move. With a motion that was impossibly slow and fluid, she completed her crawl to the outcrop. She could feel the sniper's gaze on her, feel his amusement as she took her time. He was letting her set up, letting her think she had a chance. It was the cruelest part of his game. She nestled the Dragunov's stock into her shoulder. The cold metal was a familiar comfort. She peered through the scope. The crosshairs danced over the pillbox, then settled on the observation slit. The sniper was leaning against the sandbags now, his rifle propped beside him, his posture one of utter contempt. He was talking to his friend, gesturing towards her, probably making another joke. He wasn't even looking at her anymore. He had already dismissed her, and that was his mistake. Invisibility wasn't just about not being seen. It was about not being taken seriously. It was about being so far beneath someone's notice that they forgot you could be a threat. He had forgotten. Alara took a breath. The same slow, deep breath she had seen her father take 1,000 times. She let half of it out. The world steadied. The crosshairs, previously a dancing point of light, became still. They found the sniper's exposed temple just visible in the gap between his helmet and the sandbag. Her finger, a gentle presence on the trigger, began to apply pressure. There was no anger in her, no hatred. There was only the path she had seen her whole life, the path through the mountains, the path to the other side. This was the last terrible step. The crack of the Dragunov was a sharp, brutal sound that echoed off the mountains and shattered the morning calm. It was a sound of finality. In the pillbox, the one-eyed sniper's head snapped to the side, a brief, violent motion, and he crumpled. His friend stared, his mouth open in a silent scream, coffee cup shattering on the concrete floor. For one stunned second, the entire checkpoint froze, then chaos erupted. And soldiers scrambled for cover, shouting, pointing. Machine guns opened fire, stitching lines of bullets across the mountainside, but Alara was already gone. She had rolled away from the outcrop the instant the shot was fired, melting back into the cover of the rocks, a wisp of smoke. She didn't wait to see the result. She didn't need to. She slithered back to the cave, her body moving on pure instinct. The refugees stared at her, wide-eyed, as she slid in beside them. The gunfire from below was a constant, angry rattle. She didn't speak. She just began to dismantle the rifle, her movements as calm and precise as her father's had been, wiping each piece clean before wrapping it in the oiled cloth. The others watched the transformation. The terrified girl was gone. In her place was something else, something forged in the crucible of the moment. The soldiers below, furious and disorganized, spent an hour firing at shadows and calling in reinforcements. They swept the lower slopes, but no one thought to look for a small cave hidden just below the ridgeline. They were looking for a